actually on the first tee of the golf course when I got the call, and my manager would not tell me who it was, so I cut my golf game short, which I didn't want to, and ran to the office. I get there, I see the contract sitting on the desk, and I had to flip through 100 pages, you know, a UFC contract like that big. And I see Donald's name, and like, I kind of gasped for air, like, really, dude? And he was like, yeah. He's like, I was like, how soon? He was like, next month, Denver. I was like, and we going to Denver? I was like, yeah. I was like, all right. I said, well, the first thing I thought was, I guess there must have been some other people who said no to this fight. And quite frankly, I was right about that. There was about 3 people who turned it down. You know, Donald's always been a great friend of mine. Me and my wife spent time at his ranch. And, you know, the first thing I thought was, the least I can do is show up for the guy. That way he can fight in his hometown. But by any means, I didn't come to Colorado to lose. You know what I mean? I know what's on the line.
How different was it preparing for this fight as opposed to your other fights, preparing for someone that you know so well?
It's been, it's actually been fun for me. You know, I haven't been stressed about anything. You know, the Camoes fight, you know, I was coming off 2 losses. So, you know, it was like, I got to survive, but I got to win. But at the same time, I was still trying to make the fans happy and put up a good fight, you know. You know, honestly, coming into this fight with Donald, I'm expecting a 3-round brawl. Like, I'm expecting it to be one of the hardest fights. The only big significant thing that changing camps done for me was gave me a better opportunity at learning my ground game efficiently. I have a ton of great Brazilian black belts, and these guys didn't get their black belts in the mail. You know what I mean? These are some hardcore Brazilians, and it's been very interesting the last few months, training with the guys, adjusting. But you know, there's not a day go by I don't think about my former teammates at Jackson, think about Coach Greg. You know, it's kind of overwhelming sometimes. You know, there was actually points in this since I left where kind of back around March when I lost the fights to Lozon and then I lost to Miller. I started reassessing my situation of why I left, you know, and I would, you know, anytime I start thinking that way, I always consult with my wife because she always has the best answers for me. And, you know, one thing about me, I've never looked back when I've moved on to something.
How often did you guys actually train together at Jackson's, and how much of an advantage do you feel you have from that experience?
Well, we trained all the time. You know, every day that we were in the gym, we trained together. You know, if it wasn't me and him slugging it, it was him and Leonard, you know, and him and Leonard sparring matches got a lot worse than me and his, you know, and it got to where Coach had to pull them away, but that's just how they spar, man. And, you know, before I got to Jackson's, I never was sparred that hard, you know, and going up to Jackson's was the first time actually sparring with Cowboy. That was when I really started to spar to my full potential, and there were a lot of times, man, you know, from the leg kicks, you know, I would go down and Cowboy, you know, he's a tough guy, you know, and I had my days, you know, and that's just a day in the office, you know what I mean? But we never went in there to hurt each other. It seemed kind of hard, and there were times where certain licks were hard, but we never went in there to knock each other out. You know, this is actually the first time that we're gonna throw hands for real, you know what I mean? And, you know, when you're in the training room, you don't get paid in there, so if one of us cut each other, or we break a rib, you know, from a knee, you know, now we're out, you know what I mean? So that would have been stupidity, you know? We were just making each other tougher. The similarities, you know, like I keep saying, you know, I don't want to be naive the same way Rashad did with John and think that Cowboy is not a better fighter. You know what I mean? I'm expecting different techniques, but similarities, you know, but I'm not going to be one-track minded to think that he's not a better fighter. Because if I do that, then it's going to be a night like John and Rashad. And, you know, and the last thing I need is to be going back to the Black Zillions with the same performance that Rashad gave with John. You know, I'm going in this fight to win, but win or lose, I'm going to fight. Losing the 2 fights and winning a fight to a guy that wasn't really up in the rankings, I really don't know where I stand right now. The only thing I know is a win over Donald can put me back in the elite, you know. I call it the Elite 5, you know, at least back in the top 5. And I feel like this is a championship fight for me, man. This is a career-deciding fight for me, man. This fight is going to decide if I can I compete with the elite, you know, or am I going to be one of those guys just floating in the pack that's fighting just to get by. I don't want to be that guy. When I throw my first punch, I'm just be like, please fall down. Just make my night easier.
And then I won't every time the shit get, baby. So
just make it easy on both of us to just fall, man.